Good afternoon, everyone. Today I'm chatting with Jim Atkinson from Antimony Resources. In today's interview, we discuss what's happening in the antimony world, along with Antimony Resources and their Bald Hill project, which has recently seen some of the highest drill intercepts of antimony that any publicly traded company I can find has had. Don't believe me? Google it. We also get into what investors can expect out of the company over the remainder of the year, including their upcoming drill program that is starting in September. All right, everybody, enjoy the interview. Jim, it's great to see you again.
Good to be back. Good to see you too.
So, since the last time we sat down, there now appears to be countless names chasing antimony. But I have to say that you guys seem to be different than everybody else. I see these results. From my view, they seem outstanding. I see that the stock's done quite well since our very first conversation.
I hope you
Uh,
loaded up at that time.
well, I like to think that we're just getting started here.
Right.
What's your take right now on what's going on in the antimony world, especially when we look at the universe of equities out there that are focused on antimony?
Well, I like to say that we have the highest grade antimony deposit in North America and possibly in the world. We also have one of the very, very few pure antimony plays. Most of the other antimony that we're hearing about is antimony as a byproduct of gold and, in gold product or gold projects, past gold projects that have had a little bit of antimony. And most of the other stuff that we're hearing about is grab samples. And, if we want high grade grab samples, we can go get grab samples that run 60% antimony, no problem. But I think it's more important to have drill hole intersections of the kind that we're putting out, 5%, 6, 7% antimony over reasonable 4 to 5 meter widths. I think those are more reasonable for what's going to be real.
So, where do we sit right now in terms of drilling? My understanding was you guys had a drill program out, some pretty big high grade holes there, and
Yes.
you guys are about to start another drill program here in September, or that has started.
No, that's the truth. We finished our last phase one drill program at the end of July. We've spent the month of August compiling, putting out assays, compiling information. We also have a company doing a 3D model for us. In all of those holes that we drilled 3,150 meters. We hit high grade antimony in 70% of those holes, and I would discount the first two holes we drilled because we didn't exactly know where the mineralization was. So anyway, so we're hitting lots of high grade in good widths, and we've drilled it now down to a depth of 400 meters. The drilling that we did at the end of our program, we expanded the known mineralization zone by 100 meters to the southeast. It's still open. We had good results there. And, what we're planning on doing, we'll be starting drilling again in mid-September. We will be drilling, well, 6,500 meters is what we've budgeted. And, maybe more. What we find is that the drilling there is less expensive than we think. So we get to drill a little extra. But we're planning on 6,500 meters. The object of that program will be to expand the known footprint of the mineralization, both at depth and along strike, but also to maybe fill in some gaps that we have in the information. One of the things that we're trying to do with the modeling, and the modeling will help us, is let us know where there are gaps in the information. In other words, maybe the space between the drill holes is bigger than it needs to be or should be, that kind of thing, right? So that will be the sort of multi-pronged focus of our program. The other thing that we're planning on doing this time is exploring, well, I'll just back up a little bit. So there is a very large antimony soil anomaly on this property. It's over 2 kilometers long. It's been drilled on the north end in a very limited way, and it's been trenched, and with very limited drilling on the south end of this long antimony anomaly, we plan to do a lot of trenching and mapping to try to understand whether there's antimony mineralization along this whole 1.5 kilometer trend. And that's one of the things we'll be doing in this program, and we'll have to get at that right away before the snow gets too deep. But that's kind of what we're planning on. So it'll be some trenching, mapping, sampling, but mostly drilling. Yeah.
How do you have any sense of how much drilling it's going to take to prove out that you actually have an economic project here?
That is something that we're still working on. Like I said, we're doing a model. The model will help us understand the continuity of the mineralization. And the continuity is one of the factors that we have to understand for calculating a resource. So once we get that done, we'll talk to some resource consultants, and we'll get their opinion on where they think we should go from here. They may say, because of the style of mineralization that it is, they may say that the spacing that we have is good enough. And so therefore we'll focus our attention on expanding the footprint of the mineralization. Or they may say, well, we need a little more detail in this area and that area. And so we'll focus some of our attention on that as well. I think one of the things that we're trying to set up is the possibility of having a maiden resource relatively soon, but maybe in the new year or at the end of this year.
So one thing that I'm curious about I don't know to what extent you can talk about this, but maybe you can give us some sort of a color on it or some sort of a taste on this, is that antimony is obviously something that governments would have an interest in terms of its military applications. Have you guys chatted with any perhaps we'll say government parties that are interested, or do you have funds that are talking to you guys with that thesis in mind? What does that look like?
Well, I think most people understand the military and even the other industrial importance of antimony. The United States military has stated they will not buy antimony from anywhere other than outside of North America. Um, and of course, they're busy putting money into some of the antimony projects in the United States. We have had some very brief and very upper, let's call them, not, I wouldn't call them high level, I call them low level discussions with some of the governments. We have had some discussions with the Canadian government. Canadian government is a little bit different, as far as I understand, in their focus, in that they're, I think, more interested in helping development. So in other words, if somebody's in the process of trying to develop something and needs funding on that side, they probably would be more interested. And we don't even really know what level the Department of Defense of the United States would be interested. The projects that they've supported, well, the two main ones that they've supported in the United States are both development projects. And we think maybe that's the level that they would become interested. There's no doubt they have their eyes on us and on New Brunswick. The Department of Defense just invested $35 million in a tungsten project in New Brunswick. So I'm sure they have their eyes on us and on what we have. We don't have any specific contacts or any specific approaches or anything on that level from the government.
Okay, let's talk about the deal structure that the company did with Globex,
Right.
because I think that this is something that investors are curious about, and this is something I think about a lot when people bring early stage companies and they put them in front of me. Is this idea that it might be a little bit too onerous for the company to actually meet these targets? My understanding here, high level, is that you guys need to spend is it $5 million on the property, and then you guys need to pay Globex $2 million to ultimately acquire your 100% interest in it, and then there's a share component for
Yeah.
Globex as well. That's
That's correct. That's the thing. The work commitment is spread over 4 years. We're already, I would say, spent enough to get into the third year of it already. As far as the payments, we have the money in place to make the second and third payments. So again, I would say we're let's say 30% of the way to actually completing the completing the option agreement.
Yeah, it's interesting too, just because like I know I've met Jack Stock before from Globex, and it almost kind of seems like he's happy when these projects get returned to him. But I'm kind of looking at your guys' ability to raise capital, which seems like it's going quite well right now. Um, uh, the work you guys have put in, and just sort of the overall tailwinds behind it, and it doesn't really seem like it's that much of a concern at this point that that deal structure should be easy for you guys to knock on wood, is so long as the market continues to hold and you guys continue to hit results like you have been. It's not keeping you up at night.
No, it's not. In fact, like I said, we're in the process of raising 4 million. 2 million of that will be flow through for our next ongoing project, our ongoing program. So we'll at that time we'll have spent, if we spend that 2 million, we'll have spent almost $3 million on the project by the end of that time. So we're already like into the third or later years of this option agreement. We have paid the payments. We have the funds in place to pay the payments for the next 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, I think it's always an issue for junior mining companies. One of the things that I believe is I don't believe that our work plan or our, let's call them our business plan, or even our ideas should exceed our financing. And I don't think at this case, at this time, I don't think that's the case. I think we have a good business plan that's well financed, and we'll be moving forward.
So we were talking pre-interview about this, and I thought maybe I'll just bring it up, but I feel like things are going phenomenally well for Antimony Resources. You guys started out with a stock that was trading around as low as 7-8 cents within the last year, and you guys have raised a bunch of money. You've hit some huge drill results. There's tremendous tailwinds at your back, but you still seem kind of frustrated with the market and the outcome. Can you maybe give some color on that?
Yes, I am frustrated that we have such a low market cap because, I see other companies, and again, I don't like to slag what other people are doing, but I don't see any other companies in the marketplace or even in the world that have the kind of results that we have. People are getting very good market caps based on grab samples. We could get as high grade grab samples as we wanted if that was our thing. I think drill holes are more important than grab samples. So I'm happy with the way we're going, with the way we're developing. I think we're developing a real project. I think it has potential to turn into something real. And I'm not really I'm concerned about the fact that our market cap is this low, but I'm not concerned about the fact that it's this low because we don't have a good project. We have a very good project, and time will tell. The market cap will become get to the level where it should be. I believe once people begin to realize that this is a real project. This is not grab samples from some former gold mine somewhere in high mountains of wherever. This is this is basically almost at tidewater. It's got roads and hydro and power and people, and it's I would say from the point of view of potentially developing it, this you couldn't be in a better spot. New Brunswick is a great place to develop projects. We have now very good support from the local people. In fact, I'll be having a meeting with the local municipality on next Tuesday. Um, it's just a great place to work, a great place I think to develop a project. So yes, I am. Getting back to our earlier conversation, I am a bit frustrated that we're not getting more. Let's call it more joy from the market, but we're prepared to work our way through it and get to where we want to be in the end.
Jim, I'll leave you with this question here for our audience who's watching it and they're following the story. What should they expect out of the remainder of the year from the company?
Well, like I said, we'll be drilling 6,500 meters approximately of more drilling in the area. We'll be doing trenching, which I think will give us some interesting insights into the larger extent of this mineralizing system. Like I said, there's a soil anomaly that's over almost 2 kilometers long. Really hasn't been well explored. We'll be doing that. We'll be doing some serious trenching, trying to understand what's happening underneath this soil anomaly. And I'm pretty confident that we'll find other places where there's antimony mineralization along this system. So I'm pretty confident that the million tons that was estimated, shall we call it, back in 2011, that's going to be expanded significantly.
All right. Well, Jim, thanks so much for hopping on here today. It's always a pleasure when we get to speak, and
Yeah.
I think that I'm as a shareholder, I'm really happy with all the work you've been putting in and the great results that you've got for shareholders, and I'm excited to see what you can do in this upcoming drill campaign.
Well, we're excited too. I'm always happy to talk about this project because it is an exciting project, and it's fun to work on something that's this significant.
All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this interview, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching.